Hi, folks. So today we're talking about the origins of cities, and in a lot of respects, much of this conversation is an echo of what we talked about last week with respect to theory and theoretical perspectives. And so, in a way, what we've looked at with theory last week is a way of explaining cities in terms of either natural processes and natural forces or political and economic decisions. And so, in a lot of respects, we can also take or use, if you will, those same lenses for how we look at ancient cities, if you will. And really, we're looking at sort of the conjunction of those two factors. Indeed, natural resources and the concentration of those resources indeed led to and spurred to the growth and development of ancient cities all over the globe, particularly in the Fertile Crescent region, as we're talking about this week. At the same time, uh, political and economic factors mattered in terms of who was in power and how did they use and marshal resources, those natural ones as well as the political and economic ones, to rule and to maintain the power that they have. So I'm hoping that you found a lot of, in a sense, similarity or a lot of examples, at very least, of this with respect to the Cities of Pharaohs video. I think it's a really interesting one, and it's a great way of looking at the emergence of cities, ancient cities on the Nile, talking chiefly about Memphis as well as Cairo and Alexandria. So it's a great way of looking at that as well. And just to expound on this more, in a lot of respects, generally those ancient Nile cities or cities along the ancient, if you will, Nile routes, indeed did manifest and have many of the physical and social features, if you will, of the ancient world, regardless of where we saw cities emerge during this period of time. So we're looking at immense concentrations of power and wealth, where really how power and wealth were administered and how they were ultimately dispersed was, in a sense, really headquartered in those cities. And so you had an enormous, if you will, concentration of natural as well as political and economic resources. And in a lot of respects, the monuments that we think of when we think of ancient Egypt are exemplary of that concentration of wealth, influence, and resources, right? One of the main things that also makes ancient cities unique is that in uh, the over in overwhelming amounts of examples, if you will, uh, the public life and public displays of institutional life, those were celebrated, those were embraced, those kinds of things were emphasized much, much more. Once we get into the Middle Ages and we see the growth and the development of industrial capitalism, that's where the private sphere becomes much, much more important. It becomes much, much more restricted to people who have certain kinds of access and certain kinds of, if you will, opportunity, as well as certain types of elite status. So, in a lot of respects, again, as we approach modernity with respect to the Middle Ages into the present, we're looking really at the great expansion of the privatization aspects of urban life with respect to capitalism and how capitalism allows for the concentration of private uh, capital and private matters of a variety of sorts.